You are listening to Bang Radio.
Welcome to Bang Radio. I'm Steve Mayeda. I'm your host of today's episode 103, man. 103 episodes in. I'm feeling pretty good. Thank you guys for joining me along this ride. And if you're watching this on YouTube or Stitcher or iTunes, man, you can go to thesexuallife.com/103. And you can actually find the access point to all this sort of stuff. You can find the liner notes on this program, the love. I'm in love, I'm in pain, I believe is the title for it. I'm sorry about that. Which there's a short write-up about it, as well as, the guide to good sex. This is what TSL is all about. The social dynamic to be the better man, and what we're proud of, and what we want to broadcast out there to the world and expand to anybody who wants to be a part of this dialogue. Man, check out how we teach. You can opt in your email address and just very simply get the guide to good sex. It's a 3-part series emailed to you, and man, hopefully use it to better your life. In any case, if you're watching this on YouTube, man, subscribe, leave comments, iTunes or Stitcher, give us a thumbs up for the episode. A written review is great, and subscribe to our channels because we put out good stuff here. What this episode is about is it's about what happens to us when we start to live a healthy sexual life. All right. And so what is that? As men who TSL, mainly started out as a social dynamics company for men, as men, we want to learn to meet women. We want to learn to fuck. We want to learn to have these adventures. We want to know what it's like to be that man, who's good with women, right? And at TSL, we learn how to do that beyond just the archetype and image, but as any expression of yourself. It doesn't matter who you are. You can get that. You can live that life because you were born to be sexual. You're born to be social. And we just had this call, and there's a client, and his name is Ray, and he's been with us for about 1.5 years. He started out with us as a college student when he was 22. He's 23 now. And, he had a good skill set from pickup. He was able to meet women. He was able to, get sexual, but he had some insecurities about sex. There were a lot of fears. He grew up religious. He didn't feel adequate in certain situations and all the different stuff that happens to us, right? When we're young, and not even when we're young, when we haven't been sexual in a while, because a man in his 40s who's had a great sex life in his 20s, but hasn't gotten laid in maybe a couple of years or maybe 6 months or whatever it is, you may not be feeling secure about your sexuality. And we start creating all these bullshit stories about it in that. Because sex, like eating or whatever, it has to be fed. If you're born to do it, we have to do it on a daily basis to get sexual, to express in that way. In any case, Ray, came to our group, and we love that. We love that, especially at TSL Online, to transform, that sort of man into being that sexual man, that sexually healthy man. So he starts having sex. He starts getting more active. He starts getting past his insecurities. He starts experimenting with different relationships, and brings us now to where he's graduated from college. He's moving into entrepreneurship, and he's fallen in love. All right. And he's starting to have connecting sex at 23 years old, and have those feelings, rock through him, and knowing what it's like to connect with a woman on that level, and having the maturity and the experience and the ability to express himself with her, and to be that raw man in between her legs, and to hold her, and to have her be that expression back, because it takes two to tango. And he messages me, and then we bring it up on our call. And we just spent about an hour talking to him, which all started with this. He said, man, I'm confused. I'm crazy. I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's the doubt. I grew up with this type of childhood. My dad wasn't around. I don't have the confidence, but at the same time, I'm having the best sex of my life. And how many of us have been there, right? And maybe you've experienced this. Maybe you haven't. If you haven't, this is something that you have to look forward to. But if you have experienced this, this is exactly what we need to talk about. All right. And I remember very vividly for myself, and I was explaining to him, and all the different men in our group who've gone through this were talking about it. But man, I can tell you I had a lot of sex from 18, that's when I lost my virginity, all the way to 26. But it wasn't until I was 26. I didn't have a lot of partners. I just had a lot of sex with the same people. But I had sex with somebody that changed my life. And there are actually three people that I can think of that totally revolutionized stages in my life of how I saw women, how I saw myself, what I believed in. And I remember there was this one woman that I had an affair with. I worked with her and we started having sex. And like I said, I had had sex before. But for me, and I've been somebody that has lived in so many different extremes and just so much chaos in my life. And you definitely don't have to do that. But I remember when I connected with her, we had a long affair for almost 2 years and we fell in love, and we fell in love with our bodies. We fell in love with our fucking, our rage, our chaos, our passion, our beauty, our softness. And we experienced each other on such a deep level. And I still have this conversation with her to this day about, I remember when I used to hang out with you, you would have to get drunk into oblivion every night. We'd have to have sex and you'd end up crying, And it was just so crazy how you went through this passion of extremes, of where you connected with me like I hadn't connected with anybody like that before. And it taught me so much. But then you would flip into this rage. It would almost be as if this pain released from you. All right. And what was so interesting about that is, and what I can tell you from that experience is that taught me, that experience with her actually taught me that physical act, that emotional act, that intimate act of all of sexuality coming together, that I was born to be, but didn't believe I could do it and live this life of chaos and insecurity and all this sort of stuff that was repressed by this mask that was holding me down, that got alleviated. And I had this little window that opened up when we connected, when we had sex. And along with that window opening up came out pain, chaos, rage, anger, confusion, upset, emotional mood swings that I would take into my life, take into my job, take into my work, take into my creativity, this total artist life of ups and downs and absolute chaos. And I didn't know what to do with it. Why? Because our culture didn't have an outlet, or at least at the time that I didn't see, for me to grab onto to say, hey, wait a minute, stabilize, relax, calm the sexual energy, chill out. This is normal. Whereas to me, I thought it was different. I thought it was a secret. I thought it was something that I had to hold within me. And I didn't make the connection of those two extremes. Later on in my life, when I was 30, after I had gained some skills and 28, 29, 30, heavily into the pickup scene, getting laid, having sex a lot. I knew how to connect. I knew how to love. I knew how to feel emotion with women. I knew how to physically perform. I knew how to be secure in the bedroom. But still, I got to that point where I didn't enjoy sex. And for those of you that know me, that it got to a point where I stopped believing that I ever had a good sex life, that I did enjoy it. That the women in my past that I did have a good sex life with, it didn't matter. Why? Because it happens at different paces for people, but very common with sexually active men in the seduction industry because we learn to be fake, right? We're taught to be fake. We're taught that fucking is good. We're taught that boning a lot of chicks is good, and all that is good if you can be yourself, if that is a true expression of you. But when it's not, it'll fuck you all up. And I remember I met a girl. We ended up having an amazing relationship for years and years and years. And she taught me to love again. She taught me that sex was beautiful, that she taught me that my expression was good, and it released that and opened that door to chaos again. But at this time, a little bit more mature, and I could handle it. And as time went on and I became to get involved with, seduction and teaching men and seeing this pattern with other men over and over again, because again, it's something that we don't talk about, that I saw this pattern with my women friends, my female friends who, would have an amazing sex with a man, but then the relationship didn't work out. And so it brought up this insecurity and this chaos. So how could they have shown, how could they have trusted, how could they have experienced this beautiful feeling of ecstasy that was on a spiritual level, but then have it be gone and treated culturally or socially or situationally like it didn't matter? What was being released? What was being disconnected? We don't talk about sex in our culture. And today, in my relationship now, Maria and I are very public people. We have a family together, amazing person. I still, to this day, when I feel the depth of love and connection with her, when I feel it with her, many times I don't know what to do. And it may not be in the act of sex. It might be there. But to be honest, I'm used to that. I'm used to feeling those feelings in sex. but in the feeling of compassion, the feeling of forgiveness, the feeling of acceptance, the feeling of encouragement, the feelings that we share, that I give to her and that she gives to me. And when she gives them to me, I'm like, why is this happening? Oh my God, this is too intense. I almost can't feel it. It's so beautiful. Man, I've never felt this. I have never felt this at 37 years old with the many relationships that I've had, that it's so unique and so deep and so passionate. Oh my God, I don't deserve it. Like, what is this? Fuck this. I am something that lives this way, not in the way that I'm being seen. And so this transformation, this metamorphosis, that when two things come together and become one, that is the sexual life. When two things merge in that way and transform, whether that's the creation of life or it's two different atoms coming together to transform into a different element, or it's two different emotions or two different people or two people's presence influencing each other. That's how we change. We talk about empathy and we talk about emotion, but there's something more to seduction and the connection of sex that transforms us and explodes us into this supernova of chaos that we may not understand, that we have to allow ourselves to calm down from. And that is the beautiful thing about hearing Ray tonight. When we are at those moments of ecstasy, when we're at those moments of pure intimacy, man, when we don't know what to feel, we fight or flight, we panic, we run. And in those moments, what it takes to be a man, what it takes to be a sexual man, what it takes to be a woman, what it takes to move into those great qualities of self is the person that can hold on to that tension and relax with it and move into, man, that higher self that can only happen with human relations. Sex is a beautiful thing. Connecting is a beautiful thing. We can do it in so many ways. You're born to be social. You're born to be sexual. Man, you're born to be you. If you want to find out more, of course, go to thesexuallife.com/103. Steve Mayeda here, signing off. Thanks for being a part of it.